Good morning, everybody. This is Gail Anderson. This is Mentoring Moments for Moms. Good to have you with us. We're in the middle of a series right now about the top 10 things I would do again as a mom, which has been really fun to talk about. So I hope all of you are enjoying it. Thank you for those that have been watching live, and also those that have been watching on the replay. That's wonderful. All of my scopes are saved on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and search for Mentoring Moments for Moms, you will be able to find all of my scopes that I've done. So thanks, Jessica, and thanks for being on today. Something I want to bring up from yesterday at the very end. Somebody asked me a question. I just want to be able to expound on that just a little bit. What I was asked was if I ever had a prodigal son or daughter. Great question. And the answer to that is no. But I really want to say that with all humility. You know, none of us as parents do every single thing right. And in the meantime, we pray and we trust God to lead and guide us. We pray and we ask Him for mentors to be in our lives, to be able to show us some other ways to do things than the way we are. But you know what? It's up to God how our kids are turning out. It is not everything we've done. And I believe that God made up for some of my shortcomings. Because yes, I know we did some things right, but I also know there are things that I would not do again. So just wanted you to realize that. You know, I say that with all humility, that we did not have an experience with any of our kids being prodigal. So thanks for watching today. This is Mentoring Moments for Moms. And if you're enjoying what we're talking about, please tap on the screen and give me some hearts. I would love that. We are in a series right now about the top 10 things I would do again as a mom. As I was just talking about, there are things I would definitely not do again. So what I've done is I've taken the cream of the crop, the things that I think are the most important, that I would definitely make sure that I did again if I were raising my children right now. So yesterday we talked about boundaries, so we're going to expound upon that just a little bit. And just by way of review, I just want to say that boundaries are a sign of love, that there is actually security for children and for us inside boundaries. And the funny thing is we think so negatively about boundaries. We think that they're limiting, but they're not. When you have those boundaries, then you have all the freedom inside of those boundaries, and that's what it offers for you. And even if we say we don't have boundaries, we all do have our boundaries somewhere. It's just a matter of how far out those boundaries go. Even when we're watching our children misbehave, we're out somewhere and we don't do anything, at some point, they're going to misbehave so much that yes, we're finally going to react, and we're going to react extremely strongly, probably without even thinking, because they have pushed the limits so far. But part of that is our issue for not having those limits pulled a little closer in and taking some kind of action right away when they start crossing the line. So we asked yesterday, what are some of the areas you have boundaries for your kids? And I'd like to hear from you on that. Hopefully you like those boundaries you have and you're continuing that. So let's just talk a little bit about that. Also, yesterday, somebody mentioned, and I kind of let it slip right by. Hi, Saliji. I let it slip right by. They talked about safety, and that is definitely something that I should have talked a little bit more about. You know, we talked about getting in trouble with the law, and if we don't have boundaries and aren't used to that, that could be an issue later. But the safety issue has a lot to do with when they're little as well. I mean, if they're in the street and they are not taught to obey your word right away, if they're going to stand there and wait for you to count to 3, this could be an issue where there is a car coming, and if they don't obey you right away, they could be hurt. Same thing with touching a hot stove. If they don't obey you, it could hurt them. And so that's a very good reason that we should make sure we have boundaries, and that we make sure my kids hold my hand or the stroller when we walk in a parking lot. Excellent, very important. Which brings up a good point. Absolutely love it. My daughter-in-law, when the kids, hi Taryn, good to see you today. When my daughter-in-law had her kids in the car and she was getting out to go somewhere and she might be getting a stroller out or whatever, the other kids actually have to take their hand and set it on the car. Now their car's pretty clean most of the time, so that's good. But just the fact that they had to stay right there. And I thought that was an excellent thing that she trained her children to do. So we're going to talk just a little bit first about obeying right away. First of all, we said for safety. And there were a few questions yesterday. How do you teach them to obey right away? You have to just keep going over it and over it and over it. The first thing is helping them understand, what does it mean to obey right away? Okay, if mommy says pick up your toys, how can you obey right away? Well, I pick up my toys. If mommy says it's time to come in and eat lunch, how do you obey right away? This is all discussions that you're having, talking about it. You can practice saying together, I obey right away, and make a little sing-song out of it. It doesn't have to be that one, it can be anything. Man, I was notorious for making up songs with my kids just to make things fun as well as to make them memorable. If you guys like what we're discussing today, please give me some hearts, tap on the screen, and I'm just glad you've joined us. Thanks for being here. Okay, also set up some scenarios. Actually, go to their room when it needs picked up and say, okay, right now we're going to practice obeying right away. Mommy's going to tell you to pick up, and then what are you going to do? Okay, let's practice, let's do it. And then of course you're reinforcing the whole time afterward. It's really fun if you have older siblings, they have older siblings, and they can reinforce that same thing or praise them for it or train or make a game with them. It's wonderful. That's what I love about having a big family. It was always fun. I also like to reward. This is a big deal for me, starting out positively. Me, the first time I say it, they finish. We obey it. Oh, Mama B, that's excellent. The first time I say it, then they respond, I obey it. Perfect. I love that. Very good. Something you say and then they have to respond. Excellent. As long as they're understanding all that and understanding what it means, it's awesome. And then to train it, you give the rewards. I like to start out with some kind of concrete rewards because concrete rewards work better with little kids at the start. Then you can switch to the praise where you're not actually giving them something concrete. But my gosh, stickers, stars, points, they love that stuff. Pennies. It costs us almost nothing to motivate our kids that way, and it's fun. Makes you happy, makes them happy, and trains the behavior. I love it. So lots and lots of praise in the casual situations as well as in the big situations. Notice when you're out and they're obeying you right away. We do charts and then trips to the dollar store. Excellent. Mama B, how many kids do you have? You obviously have had some good mentoring and good training in this, and you have some good systems. 2 kids. Okay, are you having more? Sounds like you have enough systems that you could have more and they would fit right in. That's awesome. I like to make a big deal out of things that the kids have done or the things that they're learning or succeeding in with grandparents when they're over or on the phone, or even calling them up and telling them. Or when Daddy comes home. Daddy, guess what Johnny did today? Oh my gosh, it's so fun. Mama B will believe that you will have more. That would be awesome. Okay, so I'm going to list some things, some possible boundaries to consider. Now again, this is going to sound like a lot of things, and I'm not saying everybody has to have all these boundaries. I'm just saying consider these areas and what works for you. Bedtimes, of course, when they go to bed. And there are always exceptions, but you try and have a basic time schedule to when they go to bed. Times they get up. And that is a really good thing to train your kids in. I actually did scopes quite a while ago on both getting your kids to stay in bed when you put them to bed and getting them to stay in bed in the morning. And I had Janine write to me a couple of days ago and give me the greatest suggestion. It is called a grow clock. And I put the link in yesterday's notes on YouTube. Oh, you are welcome. I appreciate you saying that. Yes, we need to support each other. We are in this all together. So I will also in today's scope put the link to this grow clock. And of course, I have not actually gotten one myself, but if I were a parent right now of a young child trying to train them to stay in bed in the morning and at night, I would get a Grow Clock. I think the price on the link through Amazon is about $45 with $5 shipping. I mean, that would be well worth keeping them in bed. It actually has a sun on. It has a sun on the clock, and it shows them as the day is passing, and then at nighttime it has a moon and then stars, and as those stars disappear, then it's time to wake up. And you actually set the times for when the stars appear and leave and all that. So just an awesome tool. It's called a Grow Clock. So check into that, moms, especially if you have young kids that you're trying to train to stay in bed at night and not get up in the morning. Okay, another area of boundaries is what they're allowed to eat. We have the cheaper one, a game changer for our family. Could you send a link to that, or at least the name of it, so I can put that in the notes of the scope as well? I love that there are options. Man, we didn't have anything like this when I was raising my kids. I was just happy to have digital clocks and teach them, okay, you don't get out of bed till 7:00, till the clock says 7:00. Okay, so when you have limits on what your kids can eat, you know, that sounds restrictive, but again, we're looking at the freedom within those boundaries. The freedom within those boundaries might be, okay, at any time during the day, you may have fruits or vegetables. Okay, that's a lot of freedom. That's a lot of choices. Just saying that they can't have anything, it doesn't have to be just a limiting factor. It can be something that is free. Okay, let's go to, oh, yeah, I'm one that didn't like my kids taking food on their own. I liked for them to ask, and we pretty much didn't eat in between mealtime except when they were young and had snacks. Although in homeschooling, a lot of times I would be making bread in the bread maker during the winter, and at recess time, 10 o'clock, the bread would be ready and we'd be eating slices of bread. But we didn't do a lot of normal snacking because I felt like that helped them to eat better at mealtime. Where you eat is another area of possible boundaries. Kitchen is great, thank you for that. Okay, wake, alarm clock, nightlight. Okay, I will get that link in the scope. So I like my kids to eat in the kitchen, but you know, as they get a little bit older, we do allow a little flexibility. But there are certain things you might not want them eating out in the TV room, chips or things that are really messy. You know, those are decisions you make according to your personality, your kid's personality, and it could even be something as simple as, okay, all week long, we don't eat anywhere but in the kitchen. But on the weekend, we sometimes watch a movie and we have snacks in the family room. That's a little bit easier to handle, and there is freedom within those boundaries. Another area would be, can we eat in the car or not? I love people that have that rule, but I've never followed it. I eat in the car, I let my kids eat in the car, I try and limit how much. But gosh, if you are on the run and you need to give them a snack, or they need to be eating their sandwich when you're on the way somewhere, it works for me. Now here's one of my big deals, and that is boundaries or limits on technology. When they can use technology, how much, maybe even where, you know, not sitting in their room hiding, but out in the living room or something public. Thanks for those hearts, you guys. I appreciate that you're enjoying what we're talking about. Just tap on that screen and give me some hearts. Okay, so TV. When are they allowed to watch and how much? I mentioned a couple weeks ago that when we homeschooled, our kids were not allowed to watch TV from the start of the day, Monday, until Friday at 4 o'clock. And you know what? There was a lot of freedom within those boundaries. They weren't asking all the time to watch TV because they knew we didn't watch TV during the school week. It was awesome. They did other things with their time. And then on the weekend, we were much more free with watching TV. Having friends over when they get to be school age. Can they have overnights? What are the rules? How much notice do you have to have? Those things kind of help if you have those boundaries. As far as teenagers, you're going to find a lot of areas where they have freedom, but a lot of new areas where you might need to establish some boundaries. For us, with some of our kids, it was actually how many social activities in 1 week. Certain ones of my kids were very, very social. They wanted to be going out every single night doing something. That's a struggle for us, going to think that idea through. No TV during school week. It was awesome. I loved it. Okay, so it's easier to let them do something on the weekend and maybe one night during the week rather than them going out every single night. Extracurricular activities, things that, games, how many seasons can they be part of something? Do you want to do this continually? Is this something you want to be a profession for them and it's really important? Or do you want to take a season or two off sometimes? Those are good things to have boundaries for. Some kids need more boundaries because they tend to take advantage and others don't. So every child is an individual, every mom is an individual, every family is their own. So you've got to decide what's best for you. I know that with my girls, they very rarely pushed the limits. They very rarely needed the same boundaries as the boys. But what happened there was they watched the boys, they watched them push limits, and they watched them get consequences. So they decided to not push those limits, which made it very nice, especially in a household with so many. All in all, boundaries are definitely something that I would do again in raising my kids. Maybe different boundaries, maybe tighter boundaries or looser boundaries in certain areas, but I would definitely have boundaries. So I just encourage you as a mom to consider what areas and what boundaries you want to have for your kids. And tomorrow we're going to talk about number 5 of the top 10 things that I would do again as being a mom. This is Gail Anderson. I hope you'll join us again. I've got all my links in the profile here, so you can email me, you can get on our blogs and read the hundreds of blogs we've written over the past few years. And just enjoy your day, Mom. I hope you're having a fun summer and doing some cool things with your kids. I am not by the ocean. Thank you, Julianne. No, I'm just out in my backyard. I decided it was so beautiful in Tulsa today that I had to get outside, but I found a shady spot so that I could scope. There's not that many different backgrounds I can have where I'm scoping when I'm in the house, so I thought I'd be out here today. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.